Hello, everyone. This is Lawanda Banks, and I am an author. I'm an educator for over 25 years. I am also an entrepreneur. I own the company Learning with Lawanda, and I am also the owner of Lawanda Banks LLC, which is a creative consulting company. So I am an artist, I'm a singer, I do multiple things. So I'm just not a one person, one thing kind of person. I like to dibble and dabble. And I'm here today to talk to you all about traditional versus homeschool and choosing what's right for your child. So we're going to have a candid comparison to help you make informed, child-centered education decisions. So I am here today to go through that with you all, and hopefully we can find some type of common ground on how we can help and find and solve the problem that you may be having right now, figuring out if you should continue uh, your child in public school or should you go the private school route or the charter school or homeschool? Well, I'm not here to really talk about charter schools and all of that. I'm just talking about the traditional brick and mortar schools that we're used to, comparing that to homeschool. Now, I've been in the homeschool, I guess, network or niche for the last 8 years. I've been working with homeschool families, and I've also homeschooled my children twice. You know, first 10 years of their life, I was a stay-at-home mom and I homeschooled my children then. And then I re-homeschooled my children when they went into ninth grade and when they were entering seventh grade. So I just pulled both of my children and decided to homeschool them. So it actually alleviated a lot of stress, a lot of issues and worries and concerns. And it gave me the power to really ensure that my children were learning in the best supportive environment that they needed. And that took understanding of their individual needs. And we're able to successfully get them out of high school with an accredited system and get them into college. So they're into college now and they work part-time with my company and they also go to college part-time. So I feel like as they're still maturing and growing and becoming themselves, I'm just glad that we were able to fit that lifestyle for what was best for us and our family. So I just wanted, sorry, it's it's real life. It's my husband calling. I just need to let him know that I am doing this right now so that way he can let me know that he's getting home safely. I'm doing my live right now, my recording for my seminar. So not right now. I'll text you. Thank you. Love you, honey. Bye. Okay, that's real life happening. You can't do nothing about real life except live with it. So that's just what we do as a couple. He and I, we kind of text each other or call when we're on our way to see if we need anything while they're on the road. So life happens, and I'm not going to let that stop us from what we're doing. So I will now introduce the topic again. We are talking about traditional versus homeschool, choosing what's right for your child. And we're going to get started with this. So let me just share my screen and we can get into it. Okay. And I will turn off my camera for now so that I am not a distraction to anyone. So we're looking at a candid comparison to help you make informed child-centered education decisions. Where's the next? Go to the next. There we go. Why this decision matters. Your child's educational path shapes more than academics. It influences their confidence, relationships, values, and lifelong love of learning. Academic foundation. learning styles and intellectual growth. There's the social skills with peer relationships and communication, and there's the emotional health with confidence, resilience, and well-being. Yes. So when we're talking about their educational path, it is more than academics. Because if you're saying, okay, if your child wants to become whatever it is that they want to become, if they want to become a doctor, their educational path is going to be different from the person who would like to become perhaps a construction worker or someone who is into the service industry, like becoming a barber or becoming a teacher, or maybe being so well versed in a skill like music or art that they may want to become a musician or an artist. Whatever it is that we want to become when it comes down to choosing our educational path, what we choose for or what we support with our kids once we see that they're actually making sense in what they are and what they want to be, it does influence their confidence. It does influence their relationships. It will influence their values and also how they feel about learning in general. Now, we are all learning. Even when we're done with high school or college, we're still learning because as we enter new phases and stages in our lives, we're going to soon see that we're faced with things that we have to go and do that we've never done before, you know? So we have to figure it out. Sometimes as we go through, because learning isn't just book studies. Learning is also about that social, emotional, and that self-awareness, and also learning how to have proper relationships. You have to learn how to build confidence. It doesn't just happen. There are some things that happen in life that can break a person's confidence, but then when we show a person how to deal with things, it helps to lift their confidence up because they're saying, okay, I was able to overcome that. I was able to deal with that. So when we're talking about education, we learn, we put a lot of investment in the things that we like and the things that we want to do. We put our full direction on that if that's what we really want. And then if we're doing what we really like, are the relationships that surround us, are they supporting us? Because if we're not getting the support from the family, then that might influence our confidence. So if your parent doesn't support what you're trying to become, it's going to mess with your confidence a little bit. Maybe. Or it may strengthen it even more and say, you know what? I'm still going to do what it is that I want to do. Yeah, a person can be very, very, very intelligent, so much so that they can become a rocket scientist, but they really want to be a singer. Some families may have a problem with supporting their singing journey, and they may have very good talent in singing. But just because they may make more money as a rocket scientist. So now you're really putting that value. How big do you value money? How big is your value of happiness? How big do you really value the idea of going and chasing after what it is that you want to become? Because even if you're a really good singer, you still have, and you're going to get into the industry of singing and you've never been in the singing industry, there's a lot of learning that you have to do with that. If I want to really throw myself into painting and delve into the artistic world, I'm going to have to learn a whole lot about that. Just like even though I'm a teacher and I know how to, I can write stories and such. Now that just became an author, I'm learning a whole lot of things into the authoring world that I've never had a chance to really delve into before because I wasn't in that niche. I was in the educational niche. So I did things within that community. So when you're delving into different things, your confidence is built, You have relationships with people who support what it is that you want to do, and they value the things that you do. They value the time that you put in and all of that. And then it helps to build that lifelong love of learning because you're always ingratiated in learning and doing more as you're building your interests. So this is why the decision matters because we are actually learning and going to school and doing all of this educational stuff because we believe that this is what helps a person to be more prepared for the world. So when we are looking at the actual learning piece, when we get down into the academic foundation, we need to understand a child's learning style and we need to understand their intellectual growth. How do they learn? Are they auditory? Are they tactile? Are they the ones who can just read a book and get it? Or do you need to have somebody to explain and break it down and show you visual pictures and things like that, like all of that? And how are you growing intellectually as you speak? Are you beginning to use the new terms? Are you broadening your understanding of what it is within what you're learning? And then you have your social skills, right? When we choose to educate the child, it's important that they get proper social skills. So we're looking at their peer relationships and we're looking at their communication. So how are they talking to their friends? Who are the friends that they are hanging around with and doing things with? Are your children coming to you and having conversations about the things that they talk to their friends about? Do they come to you with any concerns? Are your children communicating with their friends in the right way? We have to make sure that they're socialized in the right way also when we're thinking about educating a child. So that's where the social emotional piece comes in. When we're thinking about educating a child, yes, there's the academic part with are we reaching them the right way? But then there's the social part. Are we ensuring that they're getting those right social skills? Now, are the public schools providing the proper social skills for the peer relationships and for peer communication? Can it happen at home with parents? Are they capable of ensuring that their kids are involved in social skills? And are able to share communication and explain things in the right way. Like even if you're going out to order some food, is your child prepared to do that? When they're out at the public school, is it opening the kids up so that they can open up to more communication with not only their peers but in the social setting? And then we have the emotional health with the confidence, resilience, and well-being. So how and where we choose to put our kids, that's important, okay? We want to make sure that they have good academic foundation, that their learning styles are met, and that their intellectual growth is fostered because not every child is on the same level. Then we have the social skills, and then we have the emotional health. Oops, I went too fast. So in the traditional schooling structure, we are looking at the structure, we're looking at the resources and the social environment. Took a sip of water there. So there are some core strengths in the traditional schooling, right? We have certified teachers and specialized instruction. We have access to sports, arts, clubs, and extracurriculars. There is daily peer interaction and social skill development. There's established curriculum and accountability standards, and it prepares students for institutional environments. So institutional environments is like work environments that have those types of certain structures or jobs or businesses. Yes. So these are some strengths that you would get within a public school. Because yes, we all know that in public school has certified teachers. They have teachers who are specific in teaching certain subjects like woodwork and, all of those different types of things. You may get specialized instruction in a high school, in a traditional school, right? Or you may have a teacher who specializes, maybe have a specialized librarian. You have all of these different types of things in the public school. There is more money in the public school to afford the items like the sports, arts, clubs, and extracurriculars. Now, we all know that there are some challenges within the public school. There's a one, there's a one size fits all pace, may not suit every learner. So there's limited flexibility for family schedules or individual needs. Yes, I know that when I was teaching in the districts and my children were in the public school, um, the way that my daughter learns may not have been the right fit for what was in the classroom. So she finishes her work very quickly. The teacher has the students to work for X amount of minutes, but my daughter gets done well before the class is done. So then she starts to doodle because the teacher is expecting her to sit in her chair and do nothing until everybody's done, you see? But if she's done before everybody, she have to learn to sit there and wait. And that's just a part of how it is when we're going out into the institutional environment. Sometimes you may have to learn to just sit and wait. But for her, she wanted to doodle, or she probably would have wanted to do something other than just sitting there waiting. And so, because if you have something like ADHD or whatever it may be, you may not want to just sit there for such a long time, especially if you're already done. And then the family schedules is another thing that kind of goes with this little difference with a traditional school, because a traditional school may start at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning, when parents are expected to be to work at 8 o'clock. So sometimes now parents, at least in the neighborhood where I live in the suburbs in Texas, parents would have to go to a drop-off spot or early, watch before care and after care so that they can get somebody to watch their children so that they could get to school on time and the parent can also be to work on time. And if you don't have any other family around to help you with that, it's going to cost you money to ensure that your children are somewhere safe and so that you could work to take care of your family. So that there is a challenge that individual families have to deal with having their kids at the element at the public school, for instance. So that one size fits all pace, it doesn't suit every learner, especially when it's time for, testing or anything that goes with that structure where you have to stay here for this time, you have to stay here for that time. It makes it kind of hard for certain types of learners, especially learners that have learning disabilities and challenges. So then there's the social considerations. There are definitely peer pressure that's in public school. You have bullying concerns and social dynamics that require active parent involvement and communication. So all of those are some other things that you have to consider. Now, can your child still be bullied and or have peer pressure while they're at the homeschool environment? It could happen. Because it depends on what the house is like, what the home is like, and where you live and all of that. But is it as high? Not really. I don't think it's as high, right? There is a lower threshold for a bunch of peer pressure if you're at home versus if you're at the public school. So homeschooling. So this here was the public school here. We're talking peer pressure, we're talking bullying, we're talking the different social dynamics. So you may have some people who are teased because they obviously, because of their limitations, or they may have just that, I can't afford it, or my mom can't afford it, so I won't be able to go on the trip, or I won't be able to participate in the party, or I will not be able to do the gift giving part of our celebration that they're going to do in the classroom. Sometimes families have it where they don't have that extra money to do things. And when children can't participate in that because of that social financial dynamic, they may feel they may be targeted for bullying and people teasing them and all of that. And then that may spiral into having to go to the counselor's office, and now the parent have to be called, and now they have to go up there and talk about all of those things, or they have to keep going up to the school to talk about the bullying concerns. So, children get pressured into doing so many things by their peers in the public school setting much more than it would have been at home. So, pressured to doing things that they shouldn't do, even at the school on campus. How many times I've heard about people smelling smoke, like children have been doing smoking or vaping inside of the bathrooms or on campus, or doing other illicit acts on campus just because of peer pressure, you know? So this is where the parents now have to be actively involved in with all the communication with countless visits to the school because of these types of concerns. So we have it where you're in a classroom where you may be a little advanced and you want to get through more and do more and keep you engaged, but then it's not like that when in the classroom it's like a one size fit all, everybody do the exact same thing, supposed to finish at the exact same time. That causes a lot of pressure, even in the classroom. So this is what's, when we're talking about a traditional schooling, this could happen. So then in homeschooling, there's a flexibility, there's personalization, and there are family values that we can actually impart on the child. The values that they give off in the school may be slightly different from the values that we have within the home. So there are some core strengths here. There's customized curriculum matching your child's pace and interests, flexible schedule for travel, health needs, and family priorities, direct integration of faith, values, and worldview, one-on-one attention for deeper understanding, and strong family bonds through shared learning experiences. Those are the strengths. Here are the challenges. They require significant parental time and commitment, may need intentional planning for social opportunities, and also the resource considerations. Parents become primary educators, curriculum research, record keeping, and subject mastery needed. So I'm going to talk more and break this down more. Yes, I was in the public school, in the traditional school as a teacher, and I do agree that they have these strengths that is there for them. And I did just talk about those potential challenges with that one size fits all pace, right? And we have those social considerations. I'm coming back so that we can remember what we're looking at as we're comparing this traditional school to the potential challenges of the homeschool. It requires significant parental time and commitment. That is true, right? It may need intentional planning for social opportunities, yes, but everything is an intentional planning when it comes down to the children. As we're teaching them, we want to make sure that as we go through our lived experiences and as we're planning to do other things in the future, we want to be intentional with our planning for these social opportunities for these kids. So when I'm talking about the core strengths here, let's look at the customized curriculum matching your child's pace and interests. That is definitely one of the things that I really enjoyed with being a homeschool parent. I was able to pick the specific books that I thought were going to be really good for my children. So as the earliest learners, as the youngest learners, like for my daughter when she was even an infant, I was very intentional with decorating her nursery. I put learning things around the room on the like letters, pictures with colors, shapes, numbers, counting, those types of things I would put around her wall, sight words. I would put on her wall, and I would go around each of those things every day, one time, You just keep repeating it over and over again with her as an infant. By the time she was 8 months old, she was able to point out different objects or pull different flashcards from a bunch when we were asking her to identify, even though she couldn't speak. By the time she was 4 years old, she was reading books that was clearly up into the third, fourth grade level words. So she grasps learning very well. So did my son. So I was able to customize their curriculum by choosing the specific manipulatives, choosing the specific textbooks, and also the other learning materials that they would have needed. I was able to customize that for them. And then there was definitely the flexible schedule for travel, health needs, and family priorities. Since I was a stay-at-home mom, I was able to put their learning time into our daily routine. So I set a schedule for when they would wake up, when we would have breakfast, when we would start our learning, when we would have time for lunch, and then we would take an afternoon walk, or we would have our time for our alone time where they do their thing and I'm doing my thing, which more than likely was chores or prepping for dinner or something like that. My son, for instance, with the health needs, my son has seasonal allergies, which flares up his asthma. It makes him get hives sometimes. He's itchy, runny eyes, runny nose, and it's not a very easy thing to deal with. But when he was in the public school, it caused a lot of issues. Whenever he was sick, I would have to take him to the doctor to get the excuse for him to stay home to give him the medicine that was already in my fridge, which was the albuterol for his breathing treatments on his breathing machine. So I had to go to do all of that, and I already knew what I had to do. But if I didn't do it in that way and bring the doctor's note, it would have led into a truancy issue, which I think doesn't make much sense to me when clearly y'all see that the child is sick. I sent him to school sick. They have to come and tell me to pick him back up because he's what? Sick. I told you he's sick with allergies. I told you he's having asthma issues right now. So why do I have to be in that type of predicament as his mother when I've already been told by the doctor from the first time what it is that I need to do for my son? So when I pulled him out of high school, it was in ninth grade, it was one of those reasons because he was sick and they were penalizing him because of his attendance when he was already passing the class, passing the exams. They were going to penalize him. I'm like, no, we're not dealing with this anymore. That and also the things with the peer pressure and the socializing. He wasn't liking what he was witnessing in the public school with how the students were conducting themselves. So I thought it best, let's just put him and his sister into the homeschool environment, especially when my life switched and changed. And I decided to also take that leap of faith in myself and start my own company. That's when I started my education company. And when I was already back at home, I wasn't in the districts anymore. I was like, okay, well, let me just bring them back in, homeschool them. Perfect. Best thing I've ever done. Because now, when it was time for us to travel, the kids were able to travel with us. Now we had it in our schedule where we didn't have to wake up and get them off to school first thing in the morning, as early as they were getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, why? Why? So, so we just switched it up, and it made all of the difference in our family because for me, my priority was making sure that my children were going to be in a safe learning environment and that my children were going to feel that they were receiving what was best for what they wanted to do, as in what they were aiming to become. So there's a direct integration of faith, values, and worldview. Yes. So in schools, for instance, some of the things that they may be teaching our children, I may not agree with. It may not go with what my values are or what my worldview is. So because of that, we have to curb what we're teaching our children in public schools because now it seems as if you can't even teach about certain things that really happened in history anymore, specific things, because you can get in trouble for talking what is written in history books. They're trying to undo it. So it's like, so what are they really teaching our children in these schools? Since I'm not in those schools anymore, I'm just working with what I can with who is working with me. And my students are all on an accredited system. They use the Acellus Academy. And I tell all of my families, you can get your kids on Acellus and work with your kid on your own and get them through it. What my company does is if you're having difficulty explaining or if you need someone to monitor your child or tutor them in an area where they're struggling, that's where we step in and be of support. We can tutor the parent, we can also tutor the children. So it's like you're integrating yourself with what they're learning through their curriculum, which teaches the good history of what really happened in the world and what really happened in America and what's really happening in society. And then you can then integrate your faith and your values and your worldview into what they're learning. Um, there's a one-on-one attention for deeper understanding. I really enjoy this part of it, of working with children one-on-one or in very small groups, if they're all on the same level of understanding. When you can get that one-on-one, you can take the time to work with the child, along with the child, and then allow the child to try some on their own to see if they're getting it. And there's no stress and the child feeling like they have to hurry. Because why do we have to hurry? There's no need to hurry and rush. But if you're in the class with 20 kids and you're the only one in the class who do not understand, and the teacher is stopping to go over one more time or to re-explain one more time, there's so much pressure around that child when the whole class starts to sigh exasperating, like, oh, come on, you ain't got it yet. It's like that type of pressure. Oh my goodness. But you don't have those types of pressures when you're in your one-on-one piece with your children. And then there are the strong family bonds through shared learning experiences. Like I said before, I am still learning. So even when I work with students through the Acela system, there are things that I did not know that I learned when I'm actually helping them with the course because I don't know everything. So here I am learning along with them. You may be a parent who struggle with math or struggle with reading. I promise you, if you sit through those videos with your child and work with them through those videos, taking that 2 hours a day and just sit with your child and go through those videos, you will learn with them. You will learn how to work with them. If you take your time, pace yourself, and just give the child what it is that they need. That's if you're able to do it. Not every person is able to homeschool their child because of lack of resources or whatever it is that they're doing with their work. It impedes in the time. But if you had some support, if there was an extra person at home who can monitor and supervise the child or get the child into taking them out, just taking your child out in the community, showing them how to bank, showing them how to budget with going on to the grocery store, taking them out to community events or to community centers. All of those are interesting and easy, inexpensive ways that you can work with educating your child. Sharing what you're doing as you're growing as an adult. If you are studying a different course, share what you're learning with your child. Let them see that you're also growing within yourself. You may have something that you might be interested in doing, a secret passion that you have hidden within you, a secret talent that you may have hidden within you. When you go and express that with your child involved in it, you may get more support than you think. And it can be a shared experience. So as your child is learning how to read, How fun would it be that it was you who taught your child how to read and you saw their face light up and you feel the joy when they're finally able to do it or they finally get it. So I love learning new math, new science with my students because those were the sides that I struggled with the most. But since I've been doing this for 8 years now, I've mastered all the way up, but I would say up to pre-algebra, I've mastered those things. Now, did I go and get the testing to go beyond the sixth grade with teaching math? No, but I know within myself that I've mastered all the way up to there. So, and I'm still learning because I want to master for real how to teach for sure all of the topics in algebra, all of the sections of algebra until I get the continued practice, which I'm doing, practicing and developing my instruction of algebra, then I've mastered algebra. I know what I've mastered and I know what I haven't just based off of how I've been taking in additional information as a teacher. So as a teacher, for instance, I'm certified to teach from early childhood up to sixth grade, I think it is for the math and science, social studies reading. And then I also have up to high school, eighth grade certification for language arts, social studies reading. I have ESL certifications. I have all of these things in which I can teach. But I know that because of my additional practice, I can go and test and see if I've gotten the certifications for that high school instruction. I can go and do that. But at this moment, I haven't gotten it. So I make sure that persons who are in those skilled areas are hired to be assistants for my company. So what I'm trying to show is that we do have our learning experiences. My son has watched me grow in my math competency over the years. I've watched him master math over the years, so much so that he's one of my assistant tutors. So, because of that, it's like we've shared this shared learning experience in growing and developing because as he was learning his math, I was developing more skills than mine. And now he's at the point where he's mastered it. And I am at the point where I'm asking him to help me to get to the mastery level. And that's okay because we all have our weaknesses. And the freedom comes when we can open up and be honest about our limitations and about our weaknesses. I'm strong in this area, but I'm a little shaky in that area. And because we can take our time with our kids and go through it, it really helps to build those bonds. So, the curriculum research, it took me a little while to find the Acellus. The Acellus was the best thing that helped me with what I was doing because it does provide the record keeping and all of those different subject mastery topics and points. All of that is already in their system. So I personally like it because it took away all of that stress from me. So academic outcomes, what research shows? We're looking at the test score percentiles. National studies show homeschoolers typically score 15 to 30 percentile points above public school students on standardized tests. For college readiness, both paths successfully prepare students for higher education. Homeschoolers often demonstrate strong self-directed learning skills. Learning styles matter most. Success depends more on matching education to your child's unique needs than the schooling model itself. So we have the traditional schools, which would be what we would call the public schools. These are their assessment scores for reading, math, science, and social studies. And we see that the homeschool students scored so much more higher, almost double the amount of the scores to what the traditional school is showing here. So I feel like I feel like because the homeschool students are able to take the additional time that they need to show mastery, that they're not pressured and they're not set inside of a time schedule where they have to do the work at this time or whatever. They can work ahead, they can accelerate faster. So I feel like because they have more time to show full mastery, that's their scores on the standardized tests are going to be higher because they have additional time in which to practice and study and to get sorted out without as many distractions and other pressures that are faced with you when you're in the public school. That those types of things can go away. And if you're studying, then you can flex your schedule even more to allow for extra study time so that you can prepare better and be ready for those standardized tests. And their self-directed learning skills are higher because when you're in the home, you have a schedule that you set for the child. And as long as you are implementing and following through with the schedule, the students automatically become self-directed learners because they know exactly what it is that they're supposed to do and have it done in a reasonable time. And they know they can choose sometimes which subjects they feel like working on, or they get sometimes to choose what time they want to start their work or do their chores. So that helps with and they're also more free to open up and say, hey, I don't understand this. Let me go and look for the definition of it and all of that. They get to learn certain skills when they're at home a little bit quicker than they would at the public school. And then also the success depends more on matching education to your child's need than the schooling model itself. So because we have the homeschool students, their unique needs in education and learning can be adjusted perfectly for them. But if their learning style isn't offered so much so in the public school, they're going to be less likely to be as successful than if you can tweak their learning, their learning and their options as you can with being in the homeschool option. You get to tweak things a little bit more. So the social development beyond the myths. So we have traditional school. There is daily peer exposure in age group settings that are structured, socialized through class activities and recess. So I know that a lot of the classes, they do have some projects, but a lot of it is still looking at worksheets, and more worksheets, and going through those types of things. Um, in the traditional school, in the homeschool, there's multi-age interactions through co-ops, sports leagues, community activities, and purposeful gatherings. So it's a little bit different with the traditional school where you're just with your one age group in your one class all day. With the homeschoolers, they get to go to different activities, like I mentioned earlier. They can go and do more things in the community, like just going to the grocery store on a regular Tuesday, or going down to the Dollar General, for instance, or the Dollar Tree or Five Below to pick up items because it's almost time for the Spring Fest or it's almost time for our Fall Festival. There's so many different things that you can do and meet up with friends from other homeschool groups or other friends you may have met when you go out to the park for your recess versus going out to the playground at school. Certain places they don't have the park or the playgrounds, they just have a gym. So it's like they're actually in the homeschool setting, they get more exposure to certain groups that do that refinement or tutors or coaches that can get into the sports leagues a little bit more because you have that flex schedule where you can master your talent also. So if you are good in music, homeschool, you can go and see that really good music teacher at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning because you are on a flexible schedule as a homeschooler. Um, the extracurricular, both homeschool and public school or traditional schools, they offer clubs, there's sports, and there's arts. Homeschoolers often join community programs, like they may go to the Y for certain classes like swim, or they may go to the Y for flag football, for instance. There's the traditional students access school-based options. So there are school clubs, there are school sports, and there are school choirs and things like that. But at the that's for the public school, sorry. The homeschoolers have to go out into the community to get those things. So there is also community building. Social skills developed through quality relationships, not just quantity of exposure. So both paths require intentional connection. So yes, the public school or the traditional school, they do invite persons from the community to come in. They do organize certain events with the community that like football games and such where different persons get to interact with the students, and it do build those quality relationships when certain people can come to the schools and visit. Same thing can happen with the homeschool because you can actually take your kids and travel with them to see certain people or to go to a real concert to see a real football game somewhere. You may be able to, or a real basketball game. So apart from just reading about it in the book, you can actually take your child and see it in real life. So I feel like there is the intentional connections that have to be placed there when you're trying to really help to build their social skills in the community. Both have to be intentional. Teachers decide where they're going to take the kids on their field trips. Same thing as what parents have to do at homeschool, but parents don't need permission to take them. So sometimes you may have an out of the box idea that you can go and do as a parent where you wouldn't need to have any clearance for as you would in the public school. So we're looking at the emotional well-being, stress, confidence, and individual needs. Stress factors to consider. Traditional school, sorry, they send homework pressure, there's social anxiety, early wake times, and testing stress. With homeschool, there is self-motivation challenges, isolation concerns, parent burnout, and fewer built-in breaks. Building confidence, there is success in either model requires recognizing your child's temperament, learning pace, and emotional needs. So when we're looking at these stress factors in the traditional school, there is the homework pressure. Now, not every child gets homework. As a tutor, I know a few of my students say their teacher doesn't give them homework. Some of them get the homework, and sometimes they get so much homework that there isn't time to really tutor the student. Pardon me. Sorry. So I had to cough right there. But there is the traditional school, there's homework pressure, there's social anxiety, early wake up times, and testing stress. These are some of the things that stresses our children when they go to the traditional school. Some of the homeworks that the school give, it's just a lot of paperwork, and they expect it at a certain time. Some of the work is very vague. Sometimes the children say they haven't even learned about it in class. Pardon me. I'm sorry, I'm having allergies, so it's starting to affect my throat with coughing, but I'm going to try and work through this anyway. So we have, like I said, homework pressure, there's social anxiety. With the social anxiety, you can think about things like prom, or you may have some type of event going on at school where you have to show up and speak out in front of people, and it's a lot of people. That causes some anxiety. If you're in a class with 20, 30 people, and you're asked to stand up and give a presentation and you're normally silent or a quiet person, introverted, it can cause a lot of social anxiety. Or you may feel a little insecure about the physical aspects of yourself. And people may tease you about that. And you have to stand up in front of others and you feel like everyone is laughing at you. That causes a lot of anxiety. And even the early wake up times. Having a having a high schooler wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, it's not very natural because they typically want to go to bed around 1 or 2 o'clock. So to wake up that early, they're not getting enough rest. I think that having them to wake up 2 hours later may be a better functioning experience than having them wake up at 6 o'clock, or to be on the bus for 6 o'clock in the morning or 6:30. And there's a great testing stress that's experienced also with uh, with being in the traditional school, and they're constantly being tested over and over again. And if you know that the child haven't shown mastery in that area, they haven't had enough time to master the area in the traditional school, because sometimes with all the disruptions, sometimes they may have a disruption and they have to just push ahead, just go along, and the teachers send the work home for the children to try without having a chance to teach it, hoping that when they take that test that's inevitable to come anyway, that they do well. So it's a lot of pressure on the teacher, and it's also a lot of pressure on the student to perform, because if they don't perform well enough, they'll end up having to become maybe retained, or having to do summer camp, or summer school, not summer camp, summer school, which brings on more pressure, more social anxiety, more bullying possibilities, or teasing possibilities, which messes with your whole makeup and feel how you feel about yourself, with your self-confidence. So all of these different types of things brings a lot of stress. And when you're at the home school, one stress factor that you can have would be self-motivation challenges, or isolation concerns, or parent burnout, and fewer built-in breaks. So with your self-motivation challenges, if you're at home, you don't have a teacher there necessarily to motivate you to do your work. It doesn't matter if you're at home or if you're in the public school or the traditional school. There are some students who are intrinsically motivated to do what they want to do, because they already know what they want to be and they know what they have to do to get it. But then there are some other people who need that motivation, who need that push. So some parents may not know how to give that push, or to help and build up that self, or to be self-motivated, or to help a person with building self-motivation. A parent may not have those tools. So that may be a challenge within the home. And then there's isolation concerns. Some children, once they're in, they don't want to get out. Sometimes they just get so used to being not around people that they don't want to be around a lot of people. So there might be a concern with that. And then some parents do feel burnt out, because maybe perhaps they're not fully organized themselves, or that maybe there might have been a shift in the home makeup, that parent would have to do more, and they feel a little burnt out. Sometimes it's a scheduling issue. Sometimes it's how you set up your day, and are you willing to do with what's needed to be done as the parent so that you can put that structure in place. And fewer built-in breaks. Um, with those, um, when you're at home, when you're at school, for instance, there's a built-in break for a lunch, for instance, or a built-in break for when you go to recess and all of that. In the home, there isn't you don't have that with the homeschool child. So that may be a little stressful for them. You don't get a break from home, right? You get a break from school, but you don't get a break from home unless you're going on a vacation or something like that. But you get a break from school by being at home, if that makes sense. And then building confidence. Success in either model require recognizing your child's temperament, learning pace, and emotional needs. So either way you go, you need to understand how your child learn, the pace that they need, and what do they need emotionally. So when you're talking about that motivation, are you motivating them? Are you allowing them an opportunity to do that demonstration on their own? Are you overdoing it? Or are you allowing the child to learn and to demonstrate? I think that's what causes some of the burnout because the parent isn't allowing the child the opportunity. They're just overseeing it too much and not allowing the child. So children thrive when the educational environment aligns with their personality, not when forced to adapt to a mismatch. So once we figure out which environment may be best for the child, and if we have the to-dos to make that happen, then that will help the child to thrive more than when they have to be put into a learning setting that doesn't really suit their personality. Because if you're an introverted person, being forced to stand up in front of everybody, it doesn't really make them feel more successful all the time. Sometimes it heightens the feeling, especially if the performance that they weren't doing didn't turn out well. If the performance turned out well, it may make them feel a little bit happier that it was good, but they would still have that high feeling of nervousness or a sense of embarrassment because they had to still go out and do that. So once their confidence is there, then that's a different feeling altogether because you feel confident in what you're doing. But if you're introverted and you don't feel confident to speak out and then they're forcing you into it, that can become a little stressful. So when their child's education environment can align with their personality, it really does help them to thrive. So here we have some practical considerations. There's the time, finances, and family dynamics. Time investment, traditional drop-off or pick-up, homework help, school events. That's some type of time that you have to invest when you're in the traditional circumstance as a traditional school. You have to make sure you up on time to drop off your kids and pick them up and help them with homework and take them to all the different things they have to do with school. For homeschool, you work about 3 to 6 hours of daily instruction, curriculum, prep, planning. Um, and all of that, 3 to 6 hours is not bad because for me, my children work maybe 3 hours of academics. Then we get to go out. Going out is a part of our almost daily thing where we either go out to the park or we have to go out to the store or we're doing something where there's a little bit of learning still in there. We may go to pick up items for another activity. All of that comes under the planning. So you're spending about 3 to 6 hours of daily instruction. 6 hours is like max because you're probably working on a project or something like that. Uh, there's a financial impact with the traditional school, there's the supplies, the fees, the transportation, the fundraisers. For homeschool, it's the curriculum costs, the lost income, activity fees, and resources. There is a loss of income, but because you're not working, but I feel like you can still have income as a home parent because there may be some type of home-based business that you can open up with your child. You guys may be able to invest in something where you're actually making income versus losing income. Yes, there is a cost of the curriculum, but when you look at the cost of a few textbooks and materials versus the cost that you would have to go through for the ton of back to school shopping for the clothes, the shoes, the backpacks, all of these materials and supplies, all of those things cost less money when you're weighing the cost of the books and the reading materials. Then the resources with the homeschool, there is a financial impact to the resources, but once you have your resources, you can function, especially if you plan on having multiple kids. A lot of the reading books or the materials that you use with one child as they're elevating going through, you have another child coming through, you can reuse those same reading books and flashcards and all of those things. With the homeschool, the curriculum that we use is called a Salis Academy. It's virtual. So the students' extra workbooks that I get for them. There are many inexpensive textbooks online. On Amazon, for instance, they have lots of different types of textbooks that you can purchase for reading, writing, math, and all of those subjects, whichever subject you want, that you can have as an additional resource to the online academy that we use. And once we've invested in those things, we're good to go for the rest of the year. So then here with the traditional school under the family dynamics, evening time, there's the traditional family have evening family time in a structured routine. The homeschool, you have all day togetherness, requires patience, boundaries, and intentional breaks. Like I said earlier in the meeting, when I set my schedule, I've set time where I have personal time for me to do what I need to do, and also personal time for them to sit and be with themselves and to busy themselves with specific activities that I have set for them to choose from. So if my son goes to his room and I put up the gate and he's in his room, or my daughter is in the room playing with him, or she may want to do something in her room, put up her gate. So I know that they're in their areas while I may be in my room doing a chore or downstairs doing a chore. They may be downstairs with me, or they may want to be in their rooms, depending on their age. Everything can switch up depending on the age, but it's important to place intentional breaks inside of your day so that your child can learn how to be self-sufficient and how to do things on their own. So it's important to set our boundaries inside of the home because you're going to be with them all day. It's important for your self-care to set up time for yourself also and not feel guilty about taking that time. So with working parents, traditional schools align with work schedules. Homeschooling requires creative solutions. Like I said, that out of the box thinking. So you can have flexible jobs, tag team teaching, or online programs. My company is a educational support company. We provide services and we also offer support. So if you're a homeschooling parent, for instance, and you got a working parent, for instance, you may hire Learning with Lawanda to work with your child if you wanted after school tutoring, for instance. But the homeschool parent might be like, okay, while I work on this side job that I'm doing that I can do from home, I can have my children signed up with a Salison online program with Miss Lawanda, so that way they can be getting what they need with their assistance online while the parents can be working on something else. So that kind of is like with a part of the tag team teaching, where if they're struggling, a homeschool parent may be struggling with teaching the math or the reading. So they say, okay, Miss Lawanda, here, you handle this. We will handle these things, or you may be working from home. If you work from home, it'll be perfect because then your child can be online for 3 or 4 hours working with monitoring and doing activities while you are taking care of your job. And when everybody's done, you can just go and enjoy each other for the afternoon and evening. So families who have multiple children, different ages, different learning styles and needs add complexity. So traditional school offers grade-specific instruction. Homeschool allows sibling learning but demands juggling. So yes, that is true. So if I have a third grader and a sixth grader and a kindergartner, for instance, they're all doing different levels of learning, but they all can be working on the same topic. So if my students were learning his science, for instance, if they were doing plant the parts of a plant, just something simple like that, they're learning about parts of the plant. The kindergartner activities might be slightly different from the activity that I would give the third and sixth grade student. Maybe the sixth grade student's presentation would be a little more advanced than the kindergartner's presentation, but they would all be expected to give a presentation. They can all look at different learning videos. They'll have different levels of writing in which to do, different types of ways in which they will be able to present their experience, their learning thing that they did on the flower or the parts of the plant. So that way, they can all kind of learn their activities, their home-based activities can kind of be a shared experience, but their actual academic instruction, because everybody's online doing the Acellus, for instance, as an example, then I can better have everybody working at the same time. I can be more hands-on with the kinder student, or I can take 2 hours and work with the kinder student, and then take another 2 hours and work with one child and another 2 hours for the other. And that's 6 hours right there. And I've had a chance to sit and work with each of my children in those 6 hours, and everybody is done. By 3 o'clock, working from 9 to 3, everybody is done with their work, or it could be even less time if you work with, 2 or 3 of them at the same time and just be available for the 2 hours or 3 hours to see if anyone needs any help. So different ages, different learning styles. If you're in the homeschool, you can kind of set up your schedule and who you work with a little different than it would be in the traditional school. So making the child-centered decision. There's trial and adjust. Test choices and remain flexible. Research options. Compare local programs and communities. Evaluate capacity. Review family time and resources. And assess needs. Identify child strengths and style. The right choice prioritizes your child's unique personality, strengths, and needs, not societal expectations or convenience. Remember, as parents, we are trying to choose the right learning environment for our child, who is an individual person. And we need to make sure that when we look at the child as an individual person, what is it that they need? What is the best experience for that child? Not necessarily you, but for the child, because we have to ensure that the child gets what the child needs. So we're going to review the family time and the resources. Can we make these financial sacrifices to ensure that this child gets what they need? Is it better if a parent remains home? Will we put them in the public school because it's best for the work? And if they do public school, what additional things can we do to ensure that the child is getting what it is that they need? So just take and do your research, check the local programs, see how much it costs if you were to homeschool, how much would it cost for them to get involved in some extracurricular activities like swim or music or dance or whatever it is that they're interested in. Compare the local programs and within the communities and see how would your life and the life of the child look. And then once you have all of those things figured out, you would be able to make a better child-centered decision on what is best for the child. So your next steps in creating your family's education plan, you should observe your child, document their learning patterns, social preferences, and stress responses over the next 2 weeks, right? So look and see, how do they learn best? Where do they prefer to go? Who do they prefer to hang out with? How do they respond to stress? If it was stress from homework or stress from doing chores, how do they respond to it? Have family conversations. Discuss priorities, concerns, and dreams with your spouse and age-appropriate children. So if you're married, of course, talk to your spouse about the priorities as it goes with your children and where you want the family to go, any concerns you may have regarding any of the individuals in the household, right? Um, you can visit and research. You can tour local schools, attend homeschool co-op meetings, and talk to families in both models and see which of those you may want. And you can start doing this from your child as an infant. You can start thinking about some of these things, like where do you want your child to go to school? Or if you want to homeschool them yourself, what are the things that you can do to make sure that you're setting up yourself to be able to do that? And then you're going to make a flexible plan. You're going to choose a path for 1 year, knowing you can reassess or adjust as your child grows. So just commit to a year of homeschooling if you have the financial capacities to do it. Make that commitment. Try out resources and different programs, curriculum out there. I I would suggest the Acellus Academy because we've had really great returns with working with Acellus, with our student success, graduation success, high school graduation, college acceptance, all of those things. Um, and also, when you've chosen your path and you try it for a year, you can look at it across the board. How does it feel socially? Did your child get to do more? Emotionally, was your child able to be less stressed? Academically, have your child shown academic growth? You'll notice it. You would notice that they're getting up and getting ready for class. You don't even have to call them because they've gotten used to the routines that you've set in place. So just choose the path for the year, knowing you can reassess and adjust as your child grows. What I did for my child as an infant, I didn't do for her when she was in third grade or seventh grade or 12th grade. So as they grow, as we grow, we adjust, we make switches and changes. And when you're in charge of your child's education, for instance, and you are able to keep them at home, then you get a little more freedom and flexibility to do all of those things. So the best education is not about the building or the method. It's about knowing your child deeply and choosing what helps them to flourish. So that was the end of the presentation there. And I just wanted to, let you all know that you do have the capacities to, work with your child. You have that. So take advantage of it. Work with your child. If you're able to experience homeschooling your child and you have structure, or if you want help with that, you can reach out to me at learningwithlawanda@gmail.com. I'll be able to, or schedule a consultation through my website at www.learningwithlawanda.com. I'm here to assist if you would like help with creating a structure or choosing curriculum or manipulatives, or if you need help with learning how to teach or how to do something with your child that you may be struggling with, just give me a ring, or sorry, chat me up on my website at learningwithlawanda.com. You can schedule a consultation. I'll be happy to help you with that if you're interested in setting up your homeschool journey with your child. If you need tutoring assistance or educational coaching and monitoring and academic support, again, check us out at learningwithlawanda.com. I'm here to offer my services. Me and my team are ready to assist you, even if you're an adult and need a high school diploma. Stellis Academy is right there. You guys can just go and sign up with a Stellis and get it. But if you need help with coaching or tutoring, we are again here to help you to achieve that. So I would like to thank everyone for listening to this presentation. You can, of course, support Learning with Lawanda. We have a donations tab on our website at learningwithlawanda.com. You can check there and leave a donation. Monies go towards additional materials and exposing our children to the world here, and also broadening our reach to the communities. So I just would like to say again, thank you, parents, and I'll see you all again with our next episode next month. Bye.